I think once the birth control pill comes around, all of a sudden, for the first time in human history, it is conceptually possible now to separate the sex act from its natural consequence, which is reproduction. As we said before, if you don't have the pill, they had condoms and they had other kinds of birth control, but none of them were very effective. I mean, condoms today are much better, but back then they were not really that effective. So you're always running a risk. And so because that fear was always there, it was always a risk, right? And for women especially, they're the ones who bear the burden. The guy, it's over quickly. The girl, she's the one who gets pregnant. She's the one who has to carry the baby. She's the one, if the guy runs off, who's stuck with it for the rest of her life, she and her family. So the price was very high for women particularly. And so it makes perfect sense why girls were expected to be very prim and proper and kind of keep their legs closed, so to speak, because the consequences were just huge, right? Not that men, I mean, who's getting the girls pregnant? Men too, right? So men also have to be properly behaved and properly trained. But in the end of the day, the consequences fall more heavily on the woman. Anyway, once but for both, there's always a risk involved. But once you're able to separate the act from its natural consequence, people all of a sudden say, oh, we can actually engage in the act now without having to worry about consequences. And because probably, people might have intuited that the moral restrictions on sexuality were related to its grave consequences. So the idea is if we've minimized or eliminated the consequences, why should those moral, rules apply anymore? And I think that in the West, this happened because over the course of the modern period from the Enlightenment on, there had been a gradual secularization of the worldview, a gradual secularization of morality. Religion, until very recently, was still seen by many people in the West, particularly in the United States, as being that which gives us our moral direction. Even Galileo, way back when, 17th century, said the Bible is about how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go, right? So leave, the cosmology to us scientists, but revelation, religion, that's about how, about morals and ethics and how to get to heaven, basically. I think what happens is that is so much undermined already in Western society by the mid-20th century that the sexual morality that existed was very much vestigial by that time. It was like a remnant of past eras. It was kind of a holdover from earlier times. And all it took, I think people are just holding on because of the fear of the consequences and pregnancy and all of that. But once that was gone, boom, all hell breaks loose, basically. Whereas in other parts of the world, the birth control pill becomes available, technologies become available everywhere. You don't see a sexual revolution in the Muslim world. You don't see a sexual revolution in China. You don't see a sexual revolution in other parts of the world outside of the kind of the Western, Samuel Huntington, the 8 spheres. You have the kind of Western cultural sphere, right? And so I think part of it really is because, look, in the Muslim world, fine, we have birth control pills, but that doesn't automatically people's commitment to Islam and the fact that ethics and sexual ethics and stuff are still very deeply informed by religious norms that go way beyond just the practicalities of, oh, we want to avoid, illegitimate pregnancies. People are, by and large, still like they have that kind of, they've internalized, right? They've internalized that ethic that, okay, fine, I have a birth control pill. It doesn't make zina halal, right? That's still like a huge sin to fornicate.
Amazing point.